think as a culture, we're conditioned to think that being introverted is a negative. And it means that when we define ourselves as such, or when we do one of these online tests and it tells us, hey, you're 66% introvert, or you're 99% introvert, or 100% introvert, we can start to feel kind of negative about that. And actually, it can be quite a positive thing. I think the most crucial thing to understand when it comes to this idea of introvert versus extrovert is, I think it's really useful to know where you are on that spectrum, because what that allows you to do is determine how to recharge. So the important thing to recognize, like the thing that I suppose introverts often feel negative about, is we know social connection is really good, but when we're placed in parties, meetings, functions, those sorts of things, perhaps where there's people around, lots of those anxieties associated with that introvert nature can start to bubble up, and we start to self-doubt, like, why can't I do what they're doing? Why can't I interact in the way that they're doing? Why haven't I got the confidence to do those things? And it just means we just have a slightly different social battery. And I think that's the number one thing to understand, because if you understand that, you can be really kind to yourself moving forward. And it actually means you can have more fun at these functions. So what I mean by this is, if you imagine we've got a battery inside of us that allows us to function happily socially, extroverts charge that battery by being in hyper-social situations, parties, gatherings, meetings, etc. They might not always be like super confident. It doesn't mean they have to be center of attention, but just existing in those places is a rewarding experience and recharges that social battery. For introverts, the opposite is true. Our social battery charges actually when we have time to ourselves, to contemplate, to reflect. Probably alone time, but certainly quieter time. So we might not be alone, we might be on a train or a bus, for example, but that's time when we can recharge, when we've got moment, we've got headspace, and perhaps we've just got the time to ourselves. So when introverts are in those social situations, our social battery is draining, because we're trying to do the functions to make ourselves appear as normal as possible, even though we are normal, to appear as extrovert as possible. Even if we're kind of finding ourselves hanging back in the corner of the room, we're expending a huge amount of that social energy, because we're talking to ourselves, oh gosh, I'm in the corner of the room, why can't I go and speak to that person? I need to go and socialize, I need to go and network, whatever it may be. So our social battery is draining when we're in those situations. So we can do something about that, can't we? We can remove ourselves from the situation for half an hour and recharge. You know, we're at a wedding, or we're at say we're at a work conference and we're staying in the hotel the conference at. We could just go to our room for half an hour, recharge, come back downstairs and use a bit more of that battery. If we're in a wedding, we could go and sit in a quiet space for a little bit. A party, we could go sit in the car, or go stand in the garden for a bit more of a quieter space, perhaps where the music is quieter. So our social battery is draining in those moments. We can recharge it by stepping out of that situation. Just as for the extrovert, when they're in that party, when they're in that gathering, the battery is charging. But you'll find when they're on their own, actually that is the problematic time, and that battery starts to drain in those times of kind of quiet contemplation. So then that's when their need for social fulfillment starts to kick in. So I think if we understand that, we can be really kind to ourselves, we can be kind to each other, particularly if we understand perhaps where our partner is on that spectrum, or where our children are on that spectrum. We can be kinder with their own emotional needs, and perhaps plan for that when we're going to parties, when we're going on holiday, when we're finding ourselves in a situation where there's going to be a hyper-social moment. If we understand our needs and the needs of the people around us, everyone's going to have a more fabulous time. My name is Alex. I'm here to make your life happier. I'll see you in the next video.